Democrats splitting over what to do next. New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez tweeting, Mueller's report is clear in pointing to Congress's responsibility in investigating obstruction of justice by the president. Our job is outlined, and then talks about impeachment. That contrasts with House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer saying impeachment is not worthwhile at this point. With that, we bring in Michigan Congresswoman, co-chair of the House Democratic Policy and Communications Committee, Debbie Dingell. Nice to see you, ma'am, as always. We checked his transcripts about what you've said in the past on this, and you said you wanted to wait till the facts came out in the Mueller report. Facts are out. Are you ready to sign on for impeachment?
I read the report on Thursday night when it came out.
You were up late.
I was up very late. And I didn't sleep, but I didn't sleep for two reasons. It bothered me. It should disturb every American who's read the report. The amount of interference Russia tried to do in our last election. The fact of the matter is that Russia is still going to try to interfere in 2020. What are we doing to try to keep that from happening?
Should Americans also be at least take comfort in the idea that there is no crime that the president and his team committed?
So if you read the report, and that's one of the reasons I want to hear Mueller testify, it does not vindicate the president. Now, I am somebody who says Congress has a serious...
You say it doesn't vindicate him in terms of criminality, or it doesn't vindicate him in terms of doing something wrong?
The end of the report, Mueller says that while he did not find evidence of obstruction, now I don't have it right in front of me, this report does not vindicate him. And there are clearly people inside the White House lied. There were things that are deeply disturbing, and there are Mitt Romney was very articulate in saying every one of us should be concerned about what's happening to this democracy. It's that fear for democracy that makes me say to you, Congress has serious responsibility for oversight. Jerry Nadler and Adam Schiff, the House Intelligence, House Judiciary, and Cummings of an oversight need to keep asking questions. So we need to focus on other things, too.
We need to focus on other things is what you just said. Interestingly enough, Republicans are out there looking for some apologies. Here is Mark Meadows talking about a name you just mentioned, Adam Schiff. Take a listen.
Now, all of a sudden, he's changing the narrative. It's time for him to fess up and admit to the American people that he didn't have what he said he had.
Speaking about Adam Schiff and other Democrats who very pointedly said there is proof of collusion, there's proof that the president committed crimes, et cetera, et cetera. Do they owe the president and the American people an apology?
I don't think that report should make anybody feel like someone should be apologizing for asking questions about what happened.
What about making statements?
I think we all need to be very careful, which is why I'm being so very careful.
You have been
sitting on this
yes,
show.
ma'am.
And I want to hear Mueller testify. We are all still interpreting his interpretations. I want him to answer that question.
You're not on the committee, but we'll give you an opportunity to play as if you were. What's the one question you want answered by him?
Do you think there was criminal? There were criminal things happened at the White House that threatened this country. But asking that question...
Well, hold on. He said investigators identified numerous links between individuals with ties to the Russian government and individuals associated with the Trump campaign. The evidence wasn't sufficient to support criminal charges.
Wasn't sufficient. I would like him to expand upon that language. But I also am going to tell you...
And this report does not conclude the president committed a crime.
But it does not. Also, it does not. It does say that he did not.
But don't we live in a country where you A, have the presumption of innocence, and B, things have to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. And this is Mueller saying, I don't have the ability to prove beyond a reasonable doubt any criminal charges.
But he has clearly, when you read this whole report, he has clearly left open a number of questions. There are clearly people inside the White House that have been that have been indicted that you should be disturbed about.
Mike Flynn being the one.
And there are others that were in his world that are under
only one
Roger
in the White House,
Stone.
though.
Well, but people that were in his campaign.
Okay, you get one more question to Mueller, last word, and then we'll wrap it up.
I want him to, I'd like his recommendation to Congress about what we should do. And I'd like Mueller to tell us how we hold people accountable in the White House, but keep this country together and keep our democracy strong and make sure that the fundamental pillars of our Constitution aren't under attack.
Real quick, and then we got to go. You have a town hall coming up, I believe, tomorrow in Ann Arbor.
Next week.
Next week in Ann Arbor. What's the chance that anybody asks you about the Mueller report versus health care, immigration, job training, et cetera?
It's a health care town hall, but I already know that people think that I should be out there calling for impeachment. And
Interesting.
I want the facts. And I don't want to tear this country apart more. I am for holding people totally accountable. I think we all, Republicans and Democrats, need to do something and be worried about what the Russians are trying to do interfering in our election.
Well,
but I also
as you pointed, they did it in 2016, they did it in 2018
I want to bring
as well.
our country together. This is Easter. This is a time to remember how much we have in common.
It is.
Whatever faith, whatever party.
It's Easter and Passover at the same time. We got to run.
No, it is.
Thank
and
you,
Muslims begin Ramadan shortly.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. President Trump tweeting in just the past couple of minutes about the Mueller report, reinforcing his message with a few statistics, including what he says zero collusion and zero obstruction. Former federal prosecutor, law professor at the University of Memphis Law School, and author of Rethinking U.S. Election Law, Steve Mulroy, with us. Steve, good to see you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
First things first, if you were the ranking members on House Judiciary, conceivably where any kind of impeachment hearings would start that the Democrats were talking about, if you were their counsel, how would you start blocking and tackling for the president ahead of those hearings?
Well, it's an excellent question. I mean, the first question is, what do my clients want to do? I mean, are they determined to go forward with impeachment proceedings, or are they trying to decide whether that's the right thing to do?
I'm saying if you're the Republicans, conceivably they'd be defending the president.
Oh, I see. I'm sorry. I misunderstood the question. Yeah. Well, so then I think I would start out by, emphasizing that on the primary thing that the Mueller report was supposed to investigate, the, links and contact and possible conspiracy between the Trump campaign and those Russians that were trying to interfere in the election, the Mueller report said there was no reason for charges. And, I would say that would be reason alone to not try to go forward with any kind of impeachment proceedings. On the other hand, they are going to have to wait and see what Mueller himself says when he testifies in May. I think that's going to be an important decision point.
That brings up an interesting point, because Bill Barr came out strongly, and there are a lot of people parsing the difference between Bill Barr's summary and commentary versus the actual quotes in the report. Those have been litigated over the past couple of days. But now that we know that Mueller is going to testify, we had the Congresswoman from Michigan here with her questions for Mueller earlier. Does Barr have a risk that Mueller comes out and undercuts a lot of how he summarized things?
I think there is that risk. I suspect, though, that Mueller will be very circumspect and will be reluctant to go much beyond the actual text of the Mueller report itself. And if that's the case, then you're left with the current debate, which is, are there material differences between the way that Attorney General Barr characterized the Mueller report in his 4-page summary and the actual report itself?
Well,
I think there are some non-trivial differences
Barr
between
said
the
that
two.
Special counsel, quote, found no evidence. And then reading from the Mueller report, a statement that the investigation did not establish particular facts does not mean there was no evidence of those facts. Right. They seem to be contradictory.
Absolutely. Yes, and I think that's right. And I think another contradiction, arguably, is that he seemed to characterize Mueller's decision as saying there's no point in going forward with obstruction, aside from the fact that there was a sitting president, and the sitting president has immunity under the Department of Justice policy, that there just wasn't any evidence of it. But that's not what Mueller actually said. Mueller said something quite different.
Real quick, if you have 5 lawyers, you'll get 6 opinions. So understandable if you disagree with another former federal prosecutor. But take a listen to Honig on CNN, and then we'll get your reaction.
I think Bill Barr's credibility and independence are in the trash. He's going out of his way to make excuses and arguments that don't hold up and were really contradicted flatly by Mueller's report.
There's Ellie Honig on CNN. Agree, disagree?
It'd be hard to disagree with that. I mean, I do think that if maybe his credibility isn't in the trash, but he undermined his credibility substantially, I think, with the way he's been characterizing the Mueller report.
All right. Well, we appreciate it, sir. Good to see you. Enjoy Memphis in May. Have some barbecue for us.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Steve.